Yes. Guess what else is back? Florida State football is back. We're fucking back, baby. Fall camp kicks off today. Jimbo's just wrapping up his press conference he had, which he addresses his expectations and takes questions, of course. And today, I just pretty much want to talk about position battles as part of a fall camp preview. So I'm going to go through some of the position battles. Jimbo was quoted as saying there's a position battles at each position, including running back. I mean, I love you, Jimbo, but no one get the fuck out of here. Running back, come on. I mean, even Jimbo can succumb to coach speak. So whatever. I thought that'd be kind of funny. Before I get into some of the position battles, some of the maybe quotable things he said in regards to the quarterback competition. He said, more coach speak. He'll know when they're ready. They'll tell him when he's ready. When he spoke about Francois, I said something kind of interesting. And Jimbo, if you listen to him speak, and if you've ever listened to ESPN Tallahassee on the Jeff Cameron show, he'll tell you the same thing, which is Jimbo does not have a good poker face. And through listening to the Jeff Cameron show, I've started to listen to some of those like tells. And he's right. Jeff Cameron, that is. Jimbo definitely has some tells. He's talking about Francois, and he says some like keywords and phrases that makes you think that he really likes this kid. He said, I'm paraphrasing here, something like he's asking the right questions in regards to Francois. He's asking, he knows the whys and the why nots. And those are some things he said about Ponder when he named him starter in '08 over the experienced Weatherford. Those are some of the same things he said about Winston. He likes his quarterbacks to ask the right questions because that means they know what's going on. They can conceptualize the offense in their head. If they're not asking the right questions, then they're probably lost and don't know the playbook as well as Jimbo would like them to. So that was I think nice to hear if you're a Francois fan like me, as in you're a fan of seeing him start game one. Some other tidbits: Chad Mavety his career is over at Florida State. He's medically disqualified. Jimbo called him a very classy guy and hell of a football player. And he was a solid player. He started 8 games last year, but he just couldn't stay healthy. He came over to FSU as a JUCO transfer, and I was hoping he'd be able to play a full 2 years because you just liked his massive size, and apparently he had a nice mean streak to him as well. Other than that, nothing really stands out. Like I said, it was quite a bit of coach speak. Bud Elliott from TomahawkNation.com, and if you're an FSU fan and you haven't been on TomahawkNation.com, you need to. It's one of the best FSU sites. I mean, for me, it's Tomahawk Nation, War Chant, and Florida State 24/7. But Tomahawk is free, which is nice, and they do a great job over there. But I don't want to take credit for anything I haven't done. I'm just an informed fan. That's all I am. And anyway, Bud Elliott pointed out via Twitter that 15 minutes into this press conference, Jimbo didn't mention the words young or youth once. And according to Bud, last year, Jimbo had said those two words around 20 times combined in his press conference. So what does that tell you? Reading the tea leaves, reading between the lines, is he thinks this team is ready to compete at a high level. College football playoff, maybe? National title level, perhaps? But yeah, because I remember last year reading some of the quotes from Jimbo, and yeah, it was a ton of this team's young. I'm looking forward to some teaching moments in this fall camp. You're not really hearing any of that, which tells you that this team's ready to rock. All right, some things need to fall in place, like these position battles that I'm about to go through. But you can tell Jimbo's excited. Like I said, he doesn't go out and fully say it like, "Ooh, I'm so fucking excited! I can't wait to the season." But you can tell with certain things he says and the way he says them that he's ready. Anyway, let's get to the position battles. And I guess I'm going to start at the offensive line. Now, for me, the offensive line is set all the way up until probably right tackle. Now, Jimbo's going to tell you there's going to be a battle at every offensive line position, and they're going to use a ton of rotations. But to me, it's set. Left tackle, Rod Johnson. Left guard, Kareem R. Center, Alec Eberle. Right guard, Wilson Bell. And here's the battle. At right tackle, will it be Rick Leonard, Derek Kelly, or Brock Rubel? Rick Leonard played defensive end, or pretty much just defensive line. Anywhere they moved him, he would play. Up until this coming season, he made the switch. Now, if you're an FSU fan long enough, as in at least through the Jimbo Fisher era, and I hope you have, hope you didn't just jump on in 2013. Anyways, you'll know when Jimbo moves a guy from defense to offense or offense to defense, take note of that because there's been some notable players that have done very well once they've switched to the other side of the ball. For instance, Cam Irving came to FSU as a defensive lineman. He left as a first-round offensive lineman. Xavier Rhodes came to FSU as a wide receiver. He left as a first-round cornerback. There's some others I'm not thinking of right now, but there's been some moves where when someone switches over, okay, Carlos Williams, another one, okay. He came over as a five-star safety out of high school. He left as a running back that was drafted by the Bills. You know, so Rick Leonard is moving to offensive line, and during spring practice, he shared first-team reps and got rave reviews. They liked his quick feet, but what might be just as important as him having the athleticism is putting on the requisite weight because as a defensive end, mainly is what he played. He was, well under 300, 280-ish, but he's very tall, so you knew he could pack on more. Well, according to Jimbo Fisher in today's press conference, Leonard is up to 314 pounds. That is very encouraging. And then you got Derek Kelly, who played some last year, but he was mainly hurt. I liked Kelly, actually. I thought he would be the hold down that spot, but he succumbed to injuries. Now, the guy I think that has the least chance of winning the right tackle position is Brock Rubel. Now, this guy, he's a massive individual. I think he's 6'7", 6'8". He's now putting on the weight, getting up, 315, 320, and, But maybe it's just because he was a freshman. But he didn't seem to have the feet. He seemed like he was on fucking roller skates. Hike, boom, he's getting pushed in the backfield. Like he was just slow with his feet. And maybe that can be improved by Rick Trickett. But out of those three, I think Rubel has the least chance. I think it'll really come down to Leonard or Kelly. And with all the positive things you keep hearing Jimbo say about Leonard, you think Leonard might just pull it off. One more thing about Rubel, and I wish I had this soundbite, and this is from the Jeff Cameron show. It was Jimbo Fisher, when asked about Brock Rubel, a beat reporter said, what does Brock Rubel bring? And Jimbo paused for a moment and goes, another body. Not exactly high praise, so that's why I really don't think Rubel's got a shot. So that's the right tackle battle. I think Leonard will win that. Let's go to the fourth wide receiver position, because you got to think Jimbo's going to go with experience and have the top three receivers stay locked in, Rudolph Whitfield and Jesus Bobo Wilson. So who's going to be the fourth guy? It's probably a battle between Auden Tate, Ermon Lane, and George Campbell. And with given Tate's spring, most people think it's going to be Auden Tate. He brings the size that FSU really needs, and not just height, but just sheer mass, and they don't have that in the other three guys I mentioned. Those are all 6'1" and under guys. Rudolph 6'1", and the Wilson and Whitfield aren't even 6 feet tall. So they need the big guy. Lane has been largely disappointing in his career as a freshman. He caught a handful of passes, showed some flashes. Last year, virtually did nothing as far as catching the ball. He's a great blocker. However, there's a downside to that. Usually when he's in the formation, it's going to be a running play. I don't know, 7 times out of 10. And then Campbell. Campbell might be next to Tate, and the other sexy pick, because he's tall and big, but he's probably faster than Tate. This Campbell can fly. Who do I think is going to win? I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see how camp unfolds. I saw a lot of Tate in the spring game, but I mean, who knows? And then there's always the wild card. Keith Gavin, the incoming freshman, is another big-bodied guy. Uh, but I guess I would probably go with Tate just based on the spring game to take down that fourth wide receiver position. And quite honestly, I hope he performs well enough to simply just be the starting flanker. I would ideally, in my three wide receiver set, like to see a Tate or a Campbell. Either one actually is fine if they play well enough in camp and deserve it. Rudolph at the split end, and then put Whitfield in the slot. That's what Whitfield is. He's a slot receiver. I'm fine with having a short ass right there. So I'm going to go with Tate, but I hope it's more than just a fourth wide receiver. I hope they overtake Bobo. Quite honestly, running back. It's not a battle, Jimbo. Okay, we could talk about the second string running back. Maybe that's a battle between Jock Patrick and Ryan Green. Jock Patrick is kind of the thunder to Cook's lightning, which used that old generic phrasing there. But I don't know. He looked. I know he's big, but he's supposed to be fast for his size. But he looked kind of slow last year. Maybe he shed a few pounds so he can get some little more speed. I mean, right now he's in line to be second string, but Ryan Green ran well during the spring and during the spring game, and he was formerly a top-notch recruit himself. He was about a 4-star, I think, when he came out. He switched to defensive back last year. Now he switched back to running back. So for second running back, it'll be a battle between Patrick or Green, but I'm guessing Patrick wins it just because he offers something different from Cook. Like Green and Cook are similar. Not to say that Green is as good as Cook, but Green is, a shifty, not some mow you over type back like Patrick is. So you're kind of getting a lesser version of Cook if you brought Green in. Whereas Patrick, you're getting a different type of running back, which Jimbo likes to, have the thumper in there. Like when in 13 he had Freeman and Wilder, getting shit done. Bouncing around to the defensive side, because I think everything else is locked up on offense. Like fullback is going to be Stevenson. I've already gone over to the offensive line starters. That's not right tackle. Tight end is going to be Izzo. There's no question about that. So let's move on to the defensive side of the ball where some other battles might take place. At the boundary corner position, it'll be between Marcus Lewis, who was a 4-star recruit, and Tavares McFadden, who was a 5-star guy. McFadden offers very good size. I think he's 6'2", over 200, good length, great athleticism. Lewis is maybe slightly smaller, but he's not small by any means. So they'll battle for the boundary corner position. If I had to guess, because again, this is kind of like reading the tea leaves and tweets from beat reporters and Jimbo quotes, Marcus Lewis may take that. That would be my guess to win that battle. But I think McFadden might be fine with that too. Excuse me. The other battles will probably be at the star position, which is kind of the nickel, I guess, if you want to call it that. Some people think it could be incoming freshman Levante Taylor. He's a 5-star guy, rated the #1 cornerback out of high school. He's not the biggest. I think he's a tick under 6 feet tall, but he's an absolute playmaker. Like watching his highlights, he doesn't play small. He reminds me of LaMarcus Joyner, even though Joyner was actually shorter than Taylor. But he reminds me in that he's relentless. Like he's fearless. He doesn't care that he's not 6'2", 220 pounds. He'll knock the snot out of you, and he appears to be a big playmaker. And he'll probably be the punt returner because he was phenomenal at that in high school. And quite frankly, FSU could use all the help they could get on punt returns because the past few years, it's basically been a fair catch or a 4-yard return. Like it's been pretty pathetic as far as punt returns go in recent seasons. So I see Taylor could battle maybe Westbrook, who's another cornerback for the star position. Not sure. We'll see. Other than that, Derwin James is the free safety. We know that. At strong safety, That could be a battle, actually, between Trey Marshall and Nate Andrews. Nate Andrews is a senior now, I believe, which is hard to fathom. Time flies. But Trey Marshall is just an absolute like freak when he was on the field as a freshman in 14, and then last year he was looking good until I think he messed up his bicep or something. But he's apparently healthy, so I think there could be a battle right there at strong safety between Marshall and Andrews, and I think that could go either way. And honestly, with the defensive backs and those battles I'm mentioning at the boundary, the star, the strong safety, I think a lot of these guys, if they quote unquote lose the battle, they're still going to find the field. There's going to be, I think, a lot of rotating because there's a ton of talented guys going through this defense, especially the secondary. I mean, heck, I could go through the what I think the starting defense will be right now, and I think it's pretty much every single player was a 4 or 5 star out of high school. Just look, I'm looking at the depth chart now. Like it's yeah, I mean, pretty much every guy you see here was a 4 or 5 star. Defensive ends obviously locked up by Walker. On one side, at nose tackle, it's going to be Naughty. At defensive tackle, it'll be Christmas. And at the other end, it's going to be Sweat. Linebacker, Hoskins should get the start. Assuming Matthew Thomas, a.k.a. the Unicorn, is around, he should lock up the other linebacker position. And I don't really see any true battles there. I mean, I could see Josh Brown maybe taking some reps from one of the linebackers just to give them breathers. He was a 4 star linebacker out of high school. Dontavius Jackson's another 4 star linebacker out of high school. I don't know if he could steal some reps, but I think everything else is pretty much locked up on defense, other than the battles I mentioned at boundary star and strong safety. There's some depth battles maybe. Behind Christmas and Naughty is the JUCO transfer. I think his name's like Wally Ime or something like that. He could be second in line. Jones is another guy. Darvin Taylor, heard good things about in the spring. Those are some guys that could be in the rotation, fighting for some reps. And of course, at the other corner, I didn't mention because it's not really a battle in my opinion. Marquez White is the starter there. And kicker, I guess I could mention kicker. It's not a battle, but might as well mention it. This is kind of a camp preview. I'm just talking mainly position battles, but just camp preview in general. Aguayo. No, not Roberto. Ricky. His little brother. He was one of the top kickers out of high school. I'm curious to see how he does. If we get another outstanding kicker, like FSU fans have just been spoiled with kickers, and I know that sounds like a contradiction in terms, considering people like to bring up all the wide rights in the early 90s. But the past few kickers have been outstanding. I mean, Roberto Aguayo for 3 years. Before that, Dustin Hopkins was excellent. Before that, Graham Gano was great. I mean, it's been probably going on a decade before you get to a kicker that wasn't just really freaking good. So he'll be the kicker. No battle there. And then at punter, there's a guy named Steed and there's a guy named Logan Tyler. That actually could be a battle. I don't really actually honestly know anything about Steed. I want to say he was a transfer. From which school, I doesn't come to my mind right now. But Logan Tyler, I do know. He's an incoming freshman. And he was one of the top rated kickers, period. Like punter or field goal kicker. Doesn't matter. He was very highly rated. So I guess probably a coin flip there, depending on who's more consistent. But yeah, new kicker, new punter this year. I mean, like to talk about all the other battles, but people forget about special teams. I mean, it was nice having Roberto Aguayo there. You get within 50 yards of field goal distance, and points could go on the board. Now we'll see. Hopefully his little brother is good, but just don't know. And then finally, the final battle, which I saved for last, is the obvious one, the quarterback battle. Francois or McGuire. At the beginning of this podcast, I mentioned how Jimbo was saying some good things without saying good things about Francois. And he's still saying for now they're each going to have equal splits. McGuire's apparently completely healed, completely healthy from his ankle injury from the bowl game. But I think it's going to be Francois. I hope it's Francois. Well, that's going to wrap up my fall camp preview and some of the position battles. It's a handful on defense. In offense, you got right tackle and who's going to be the fourth receiver or maybe even the starting flanker because I think you can knock Wilson out of there. I think Whitfield will stay on just because he's such a good slot receiver because he's so shifty and quick. And if you have another tall guy like a Taylor Campbell, okay, we can have a little 5'8", 5'9" Whitfield on the field. That's he can complement now, but you can't have. To me, if this team really wants to go far, you can't have Rudolph being the tallest at 6'1", and then Whitfield at 5'8", and Wilson at 5'9", 10 being the top three. So hopefully Tater Campbell or I don't think Armand Lane really has a serious shot, but hopefully one of those guys steps up on offense. And on the defense, I think even the losers, as I said, will get playing time. Well, anyway, that has been a little bit of fall camp preview. Some position battles. Next time I'm on here, will probably be if there's anything noteworthy in the practice updates, whether it's injuries or Jimbo continuing to not have a good poker face, so to speak. Because I'd really like to see after each practice, and he always has press conference after each practice, what he says and how people are looking. And I'll just probably update that in the next coming podcast. And then eventually during game week, I'll give a little Ole Miss preview. But till then, the few of you that do listen, I appreciate it. If you happen to stumble on this somehow because you're just a Florida State fan that's just opining for something and you just Googled Florida State on YouTube and this came up, please subscribe. I mean, heck, I enjoy doing these. I'm not looking to get anything out of it, but it's fun. Just getting your thoughts on audio, I guess, instead of paper. All right, well, till next time, this has been another Florida State Semicast.